Alright, old school NBA fans, self-research, NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. In this video here, I'm simply doing, by request, a video about SRS. People apparently are trying to use this as some sort of proof how one team is better than another team across eras, and believe me, it's whacked. It is so whacked. This advanced metric stuff, I'm still not sold on it, and this is the worst one I've ever seen. I still believe in net rating way before I believe in SRS, simply because it's a rank. I guess net rating does have a number with it too, but SRS, people are trying to use this as the true measure of how good of a team is. But you can't compare it across eras. It is totally warped. And I got tons of examples. If LeBron James fans want to use SRS as some kind of proof that, oh, well, Michael Jordan never beat a team with this SRS or that SRS, oh, but LeBron did, then you guys are completely lost. And I'll show you why. I pulled up some teams here across different eras. Some of these guys are champions, some are not. Take a look. So 1960 Boston Celtics. They were a championship team. They were a really good team. They had a 787 win percentage. That's the equivalent of about a 64 win team across an 82 game schedule. They were 8-5 in the playoffs. Their SRS is 7.62. There was only 8 teams then. That was the best one. All right. The very next season in 1961, the team had a much less winning percentage. They were 57-22, a .722 win percentage. They did have a better playoff record, 8-2 versus 8-5. But look at their SRS, 4.94. Well, how do those two Boston teams stack up to the 1972 Chicago Bulls, a team who didn't even win one playoff game? They were 57-25. That's great. But their SRS is 7.91, the highest of every team on this list right here I'm showing you. Boston in 1976, they were a 54-win team. That's a good record, but certainly not great. They were 12-6 in the playoffs. Their SRS is 2.25. That seems very low to me. The 1980 Lakers, Magic's rookie year, they're a 60-win team, 12-4 in the playoffs, 5.40. Really? The 82 Lakers, who did a great job in the playoffs especially, 57-25, 12-2 in the playoffs, a 4.37 SRS. Both those two Lakers teams are far behind the 72 Bulls. And the 72 Bulls weren't even the top team. They were third in 1972. The 1983 76ers, who I think is easily a top 10, maybe a top 5 team of all time. I really believe that. They were 65-17. That's a 7.93 win percentage. 12-1 in the playoffs. A 7.53 SRS. Again, lower than that 72 Bulls teams. The 85 Lakers, who some say was the best version of the Lakers of the entire 80s. They're sitting at 6.48. The 89 Pistons, probably a top 10 all-time team. 6.24. They only lost 2 games in the playoffs. They won 63 games. The 1990 Chicago Bulls, they were 1 win from reaching the finals and possible championship, 2.74. And I think they were 9th in the NBA in SRS. That is a joke. A 55-win team, the only team to beat the Pistons more than 1 game in a series, 2.74. Really? How about the 91 Lakers? Everybody craps on them. Oh, they're not Showtime. 58-win team. They're 12-7 in playoffs. Their SRS is 6.73. That's better than the 85 Lakers. So I think it's fair to say that this is year dependent, depending on the strength of the NBA. If the NBA is strong, doesn't have a lot of bottom feeders to beat up on, and has enough good teams at the top, that's how some of these teams that otherwise would never have an SRS like this, if you're trying to compare one team to another across eras. Here, I'll give you another example. The 1987 Atlanta Hawks, 7.18. The 89 Cleveland Cavaliers, they had the number 1 SRS at 7.09. 95. Better than the 83 76ers, who's at the bottom. That's why I kept them there. Now, the Bulls beat this team in the first round in 89. But so what? I have no faith in SRS if you're trying to compare teams across different eras. Seattle Supersonics. What buffoon is going to sit here and tell me the 95 Sonics were actually better than the 96 Sonics? The 96 Sonics were 7 wins better. They were the number 2 net rated team, the number 2 defense rated team. The 95 Sonics got beat in the first round in 4 games, 3-1. The 96 Sonics went 13-8, a 7.40 under the 95 Sonics. The 2003 Dallas Mavericks, they were 10-10 in the playoffs. 7.90, they led the NBA. Again, that's better than the 1980, 82, or 85 Lakers. It's a joke. How about this? Utah, the 2008 Utah Jazz had an SRS of 6.86. The 95 Jazz were at 7.76. The 96 Jazz, 6.25. But the 98 Jazz, a team that won 11 out of 12 games in the playoffs, beat Olajuwon, Barkley, and Drexler, beat Duncan and Robinson, beat Shaq and Kobe. Yeah, they're not as good as the 2008 Utah Jazz or the 95 or 96 team. It's ridiculous. Stupid. The 2014 LA Clippers. Here's a team that was 57-25. That's a good record. They were 6-7 in the playoffs. Their SRS is 7.27. So you're telling me, going by SRS, they were better, not as good as, better than the 93 Bulls, who just three-peated, quite a bit better, 7.27 to 6.19. And the 93 Bulls are 15-4 in the playoffs. The 98 Bulls, who completed the other three-peat, they're also under the 2014 LA Clippers. They're under the 2003 Dallas Mavericks. They're under the 1995 Utah Jazz. They're under the 95 Sonics, the 89 Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, it's just so stupid. Now, here's a direct comparison from modern teams to the old school teams. Cleveland Cavaliers, 66-16. They were 10-4 in the playoffs. They have an 8.68 SRS. The 2010 Orlando Magic, number 1 in the NBA in SRS at 7.12. Toronto Raptors of 2018, I think they were either second or third, 7.29 was their SRS. How insane is that? Milwaukee 2019, 8.04. Milwaukee of 2020, 9.41. Actually, that should be 25. Cleveland 2025, 64-18. A 780 win percentage. They were 5-4 in the playoffs. I know they had some injuries, but still, an 8.81 SRS. But if you go by SRS, they are better than the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers, the 1985 LA Lakers, and the 1989 Detroit Pistons. That is ludicrous. Again, they're all better than the 1980, 1982, 1985 Lakers. They're better than the Celtics of 1961. Please, there is no way I would put any weight into this SRS stuff. Don't tell me about what a team's SRS number was, and oh, well, you couldn't beat a team that had this. It's all dependent on the strength of the league. How good was the league at that time? Now, you may have a team that has a high SRS, but they're a really good, legendary team. And if they have too high of an SRS, that just shows maybe the league is out of balance. And there's a lot of bad teams to beat up on. So you can rack up that margin of victory. Obviously, the rules and all that stuff of the modern era help that along. But still, this is ridiculous. I don't ever want to hear anybody bringing up SRS about, oh, this team was this and this team was that. Oh, it is fool's gold. Here's my last graphic right here. This just shows you the joke of anybody who ever wants to compare an SRS of one team from one era to an SRS of a team in another era. Right here. So these are maybe the 3 greatest teams of all time. I would have these teams 1, 2, and 3. I'd have Boston probably second, maybe even first. 1986 Boston. A team that was 40-1 at home. They were 67-15, .817 win percentage, 15-3 in the playoffs. their SRS was 9.06. Now again, I don't understand it all the way. Something about how bad you beat a team versus an average team, which is 0. I don't even know what any of that really means other than the margin of victory. But obviously, if there's a bunch of bad teams in the league, yeah, you can get that SRS to jump up high. But it's funny how even in the expansion era, which was supposedly so watered down, those teams didn't have anything like SRSs like these teams did. 2025 Cleveland Cavaliers, they weren't even the best team. And they were better than about 99% of the entire decade of the 90s. They couldn't get out of the semifinals. But as you look here, the 1972 Lakers. Some say this is the greatest team of all time. I have them third, but I have no problem if somebody thinks they're the best or second best. No issue. 69-13, they were 12-3 in the playoffs. Their SRS is 11.65. Now that is a high SRS, no question. The 96 Bulls, 72-10. An 878 winning percentage, 15-3 in the playoffs. They had an 11.80 SRS, marginally better than the 72 Lakers, but both those teams appear to be much better than the 86 Celtics, and I'll never get down with that. Oh no, 86 Celtics are neck and neck with these other two teams for the best team ever. And then you got the 2025 Oklahoma City Thunder, 68-14. An 829 win percentage, okay? They were 16-7 in the playoffs. They got the extra win due to getting one more extra win in the first round. Their SRS is 12.70, a team that needed 7 to dispatch the 50-win Denver Nuggets, and then they needed 7 to beat the Indiana Pacers this last season. Really, that team is almost a point better than the 96 Bulls and over a point better than the 72 Lakers and over 3.5 points better than the 86 Celtics. Really. I think it's pretty obvious that you can take this SRS stuff and you can just get a good wipe and flush it because this is a joke. I don't know how they figure SRS, but the only way teams are going to rack up these kind of points is if there's a lot of bad teams in the league to beat by big margins. Also, running up the score, like how easy it is to score now in the modern era, that's got to be part of it. No defense, all that's got to be factored in. That has nothing to do with how actually good a team is. Not at all. I mean, seriously, Oklahoma City was the number 1 seed this year and last year. In their last 5 series they played, they got taken 7, they got taken 7, and they got upset in 6 by Dallas. That's right. So 3 of their last 5 series, they either played 7 or lost. And it's fine. If anybody wants to use this as some kind of a rating, year by year or whatever, fine. Go right ahead and do that. But if you're going to try to compare one era to another, then you're an absolute fool. Stupid to even bring it up. This is just something that a LeBron James fan would use to say, oh, in 2018, Toronto had a 7.29 SRS. Toronto, give me a break. They won 59 games. And I remember doing the research on them. They were not good against the best team. They were just really good at beating up on the so many bad teams in the league. There was like 15 or 18 really bad teams in the NBA then, and Toronto just did a good job of beating up on them. But against good teams, I think it was like the top 2 or 3 seeds in the East, plus the top 4 or 5 in the West. I can't remember. They were like 10 games under 500. I did this by request. I was a little curious. I'm glad I looked into it because SRS is fine as a measurement if you want to use it for that particular year. But to try to go historic with it, oh no, it's way off base. So anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you wouldn't mind sharing it, that would be great. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I give daily content, and that's it. Until next time.